Good evening. Welcome to the Life Enhancement and Development Podcast. I'm Dr. Cassandra Washington, your host, and I'm so glad that you have joined me this evening. Do you know that timing is not the only reason you may not experience the increase in elevation that you desire to see in your life? Tonight, I want to talk to you about one of the most common reasons we do not see the elevation and success that we desire in our lives. Join me for my conversation with transformation coach Bernadette Hicks-Kelly as she breaks down one of the most common reasons we do not experience the success and increase that we desire. So tonight we want to talk about consistency, because we do know, that you can start putting some things in action, but when you see a difference, what helps you to see a difference is that you have to be consistent. So we want to talk a little bit about consistency tonight. And Bernadette, why don't you share with us your thoughts about consistency? What does consistency mean to you?
Consistency to me means that to move forward. For example, when I started going to school. So when we start going to school, we know we go to first grade, kindergarten. So we'll start with kindergarten. You go to kindergarten. You can't just stop at kindergarten. You got to go to first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. So you continue to go to school day after day. So if you want to learn, the goal is to graduate from high school, right? The only way you're going to graduate from high school is to go to school every day, to be consistent in what you start. So that's how it is. It really is that simple, is making a decision of where you want to be, and then to be consistent in doing that. So if I want a career change, then maybe I need to go to college. So I got to go to college, or I got to go to a trade school. So I got to get up every day and work toward that goal. So consistency is not stopping.
Right. And when you said that, work towards that goal,
yes,
because you first have to have a goal in mind. You have to have a goal in mind. And sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes we wonder, why isn't it happening?
Exactly.
Why?
Because you're not being consistent.
Because you're not being consistent. And sometimes we think if we do it one time, or if we do it 2 or 3 times, and we're expecting something powerful and dynamic to happen just because we made a change and did something once or twice. But you have to keep doing it over and over and over and over. And so even with being consistent, you have to have a mindset to be
exactly
consistent. Go ahead. Exactly. I know you want to.
For example, that was a good example, because I know for me, weight loss. Let's just talk about that, because I think every American can relate to weight loss. So, when we first make up our mind that we are going to lose weight, the first thing we get most of the time is motivated. And motivation is not going to keep you getting up every morning to do it. You may be motivated 1 or 2 days, but about that 3rd or 4th day, you're going to lose that motivation. Or maybe a week, you're hot for a week or 2 weeks. But if anything happened to break that motivation, you stop. You may have a gym membership for 15 months, and all of a sudden about the 3rd month in, or the 2nd month in 60 days for me, you have stopped doing what you started out doing. You're motivated. But if you lose that motivation, you stop doing it. But if you're consistent, now it has turned into a lifestyle. So consistency is, I have a made up mind, just what you said. I have made up my mind. This is something I am going to reach. So in my vision, in my mind, in my vision, I see me in a size 6. I see me in a size 8. So every day I get up to work toward a small goal. That goal may be to eat less. That goal may be to not eat sugar. So let's talk about goal and vision. Goal and vision are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. Goal is, I have something small that I'm trying to reach. Vision is, there's a big picture that I see at the end, and there's no one set date that I'm going to reach this vision, because the vision changes daily. So, but the goal is set. The goal is something I'm going to obtain. So in this week, I'm not going to eat sugar. Well, next week, I'm not going to eat red meat. Those are things I'm going to obtain. So I'm not going to get to that size 6. I'm not going to get to that size 8 in 30 days. That's probably going to take me 365 days. So the vision is to see myself at that size 6 or size 8. You know, I'm a visionary person. So I might go buy a size 6 something or 8 dress or whatever, and I hang it up on the wall in the closet and try it on, you know, every 30 days. Like, okay, I haven't made it there yet. You know, so I'm a vision person. And that's what consistency is, you know, is having that vision in mind of what I want to reach. But my goal is that every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to reach that goal, just that goal, and make it simple and make it small and make it obtainable.
And that's a good point, because sometimes what keeps us, and let's talk about the things that can keep us from being consistent, okay. Because a lot of times we set goals that really are not realistic.
Exactly.
And then we feel overwhelmed.
Exactly.
And that causes you to quit. How do we go about setting realistic goals?
I think
you're still using the weight loss example. Okay. How can I say, for instance, I want to lose, I say I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of December. Is that realistic?
It depends. It depends on how. It's very possible. Mm-hmm. It's very possible, because I have seen someone at a heavier weight and they can lose 50 pounds in a 3-month period, but they on a very strict diet. Mm-hmm. I saw someone go on a water fast for 40 days and was able to lose that amount of weight in 40 days. My daughter have me watching these 600-pound people or 700-pound people, and you'll see where the doctor put them on this restricted diet, and they can, in a 30-day window or a 60-day window, they can lose 50 pounds. They can lose 40 pounds. But that person have really, really made their mind up. But the issue with that sometime, if you're not going to have a weight loss surgery, is if you get off track, then you feel like a failure. You feel like, oh, I failed this. I'm not good at this anymore. And you may go back into binge eating. So anyone that's trying to lose weight, I would say the best thing to do is set a goal and change your lifestyle and eat healthier and exercise and all of those things. But I think the biggest problem that we make, Cassandra, is we're trying to do it exactly like everyone else does it. I have learned that, you know what, set your own lifestyle, set your own goals, and then you can reach those things. So to tell me to cut out, you know, sugar and only eat vegetables and cut out the carbs and do all of that at one time, I already know that's not, no, I'm going to need some cheese nips, you know, I'm going to need some cheese nips, you know, at some point. So I know I cannot go cold turkey, no carbs. So no. You're going to have to tell me, maybe don't eat cheese nips every day. And maybe I can eat cheese nips twice a week. And then let me work toward next week not eating cheese nips, or, you know, I'm not a soda drinker, so I'm not affected by sodas. I have really gotten good with this no sugar, no dessert thing. I know you can't believe that, Cassandra, but
I know you love candy.
So that's, you know, and I had to set that goal, like, don't eat candy. So the only way I don't eat candy is the candy can't be in the house, because if the candy is in this house, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to eat that candy. So I have found, you know, putting the candy in the refrigerator, I'm going to eat it. But one thing, you know, of course, I don't live alone. There's other little people in this house with me. So what I have to do is I made it inconvenient for me. So now I take the candy and I may take it all the way upstairs to one of the bedrooms that we don't use consistently. I put it in the cabinet in there. So now it's like, okay, am I craving that candy so much that I'm going to walk up the stairs, go into the other bedroom and go get the candy? So that gives me time while I'm walking. As you know, I'm doing this now. So that's why I'm able to tell this story. So as I'm walking, I'm talking to myself like, do you really want this candy? Are you really going to walk up 15 to 20 stairs to get some candy that you really don't need? So sometimes it's like, yes, today I need that candy, but halfway there, I'm talking to myself and I can usually talk myself out. By the time I get to the stairs, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to eat that candy. So it's setting those little goals that's affecting me. So candy may not be your problem. You know, you don't have a problem with sweets like I do. So you don't have to set a goal to not eat candy. You don't have to set a goal to not eat cookies. I have a friend that loves cakes, and you know that cake is not an issue for me. I can not eat cake all day long, but it is something about that candy. You know, I love chocolate and I love caramel, and so. But I'm working on me. I promise you, I am.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Setting small goals, but whatever it is that you decide to do it consistently, do it often, do it every day. And you have to, I think we know ourselves better than anybody else.
Yes,
we know ourselves better than anybody else. And so we're going to bring this to finances too, because you know you're going to be focusing on finances and the way we think. Sometimes in order, before you can actually take action, you have to work on your mind first. Exactly. You have to work on your mind first. Sometimes you have to, whatever that area is, whatever new habit or new way of thinking that you need to cultivate, sometimes you have to get that principle and just think about it, say it over and over, because sometimes even when you set out to do a thing, you end up, like you say, failing. Yes. Not actually being able to follow through. But you should have the mindset, okay, let me go at it again. Exactly. Let me go at it again. And to me, consistency really is a mindset. Absolutely. It really is a mindset. It's a not giving up. And Dr. Carol Washington had on her press show talking about being resilient. Yes. Being resilient, not, even though something may come to throw you off, because something is going to come to kind of throw you off, to get you distracted, to cause you to go in the opposite way that you really want to go. But you need to have something there to pull you back on track. Exactly. When those, and you have to be intentional. I love to talk about intentional. I guess people gonna get tired of me talking about not at all. But you have to be intentional about it. You have to make plans for distractions. You have to have a plan so that when something's gonna happen that's gonna get me that's gonna try to distract me, or what is your plan? What do you have in place to bring yourself back? Exactly. To bring yourself back. And consistency takes work. Every day. Every day. And you mentioned the word failure. So let's talk about the word failure. So when we say failure, we don't mean failure in the sense that it's over. We mean failure in the sense of, I didn't get it right today. Like I said, maybe I made it all the way up the stairs and I got the candy today. So when I eat the candy, I'm satisfied. Maybe, especially for those who are emotional eaters, sometimes if you're an emotional eater and you get a little stressed, you might go reach for that candy, or you may reach for that pasta, whatever is your soothing food. So once you do that, it's like, man, I messed it up again today. So just what you're saying is, now you got to know, if I mess up, what's the plan? So the plan is, if I messed up today, if I messed up this moment, so me messing up at 3:00 has nothing to do with 4:00. I don't have to just say, well, you know what, I messed up today, so I may as well just go and eat everything. And most of the time, that's where we make our mistake. We talked about finances. If I messed up today and I overspend at 2:00,
That doesn't mean I need to go on a spending binge for the rest of the day. It doesn't mean I need to go on a spending binge for the rest of the week. I can stop where I am. So again, that's when we talked about that stop during the conference, is stop. When you realize that you have messed up, stop for a minute. Take it in and forgive yourself immediately. Say, you know what, I messed up right there, but I'm going to forgive myself and I'm gonna keep going. Because a lot of times what happens is when we mess up, that's when we start beating up on ourselves. You did it again. You said you weren't gonna do that no more. We talked during our last live, we talked about bouncing checks and not balancing our checkbook. And when we messed it up, it's like, oh man, here we go, here I go again. I messed up again. Acknowledge that you messed up and immediately forgive yourself. And then move forward. So that you're not beating up on yourself, because the moment you start beating up on yourself, there's that breakdown, and it opens that door for you to go back and make the same mistake over and over again. Because that's when you start to give up. It's the moment you beat up on yourself, you're now moving into the stage of giving up. But you can stop moving into that stage by simply saying, stop. Acknowledge I messed up, but I'm going to forgive myself. And I'm going to move forward in a more positive way. That's going to, again, put us into that consistency where we're moving forward, we're being consistent, and we're staying in a positive place. Messing up is not complete failure. Making a mistake is not complete failure. There is no complete failure until you absolutely give up and just say, I'm not going to even try anymore. That's complete failure.
Right. And so quitting is not an option.
Quitting is never an option.
To be consistent. Quitting is not an option. I may mess up, I may get it wrong, but quitting is not an option. I'm going back at it again. And then how important is accountability?
Oh, that's huge. Accountability is huge. And I will tell anyone, if you're trying to do something that you are really, really serious about, it's going to go back to my top 5. Surround yourself with 3 to 5 people. I'm laughing because Cassandra, I think you done narrowed it down to 3 good people. And so I'm gonna say, on average, your top 5 people. If you can have 5 people to help you stay accountable for your actions, help you stay accountable for your decisions, that you can call, because sometimes we're going down a road and we need to ask the question, is it me? Or is it them? Or is it me? So the first thing I ask is it me? If I cannot determine by myself, is it me? Then I will call on my top 5. Or, I may not have to call all 5 of them, but I may need to call on one of them and say, is it me? Because I'm thinking that this makes sense. And I think I'm right in this area, but I may be wrong. Can you be unbiased enough to tell me, okay, it is you? Or it's not you, you're on the right track. So we all need that top 5 to hold us accountable. And I think that's the best thing, is not only that, I actually create a little agreement with myself that I write, out to myself and say, this is what you're going to do. You're not going to hinder your success. You're going to move forward. And I sign it and I date it. We don't have to wait until the first of the year to make a commitment. Right. We can make a commitment right now. We can start a commitment right now. And I'm such a visual person. I need to write out my commitment to myself. And I don't write out a long list of things that I'm going to do. I keep it really simple, because on my wall, I say at 3 a.m. I'm going to do this. At 4 a.m. I'm going to do this. At 5 a.m. I'm going to do this. I need to know where I should be at these different times in my life. So some people may do it a little different. I work with another lady, and how she did it makes sense. She said, I need to know what I'm going to do after I brush my teeth. So after I brush my teeth, then I got to do what? Okay, after I brush my teeth, then I got to go pray. After I pray, then I got to go do what? She needed to say after I did something, because it didn't make sense for her to see it at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. Whatever makes sense in your world, that's how you have to set up reaching those goals and moving forward and not stopping at that failure. So if you got to say, well, after I eat, I'm going to walk. After I eat, I'm going to exercise. After I eat, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to start on my business. After I eat, I'm going to work on my business plan. If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do.
And you know what? In order to be consistent, it may take that.
Yes.
It may take literally writing down, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, This is
Yes,
how I'm going to plan out my day. And I
absolutely.
think you're setting yourself up for success to be what's the word? To be consistent,
Hmm.
to make it a habit,
Yes,
to make it a habit. And the more you keep doing it, then you will begin to see results. You will begin to see change. But a lot of times we're not being intentional about it. We
exactly.
just think, oh, it's just going to happen. No, you have to
It's
plan
not
it. You have to plan it. You have to set goals. You have to go to it every day. Go to
every
it
day.
every day. Go to it every day until it becomes a part of you.
It's a
Until it
lifestyle.
becomes until it becomes a lifestyle. And then you will begin to see the change. You will begin to see the growth. You will begin to see the
Exactly.
development. You will begin to see the transformation. But you have to keep doing it over and over and over and over.
Exactly. It's
And
like
so,
bodybuilding. If
right.
you're a bodybuilder, the first day you may not see anything. I learned not to get on the scale every day because that can be so heartbreaking to get on the scale every single day. I remember I read something and this person suggested that you weigh yourself every day. It's like,
Uh-huh.
in the morning you get up, weigh yourself. That was just so heartbreaking to me. I was like, you know what? That's not going to work for me. I cannot weigh myself every day.
Every day.
Then I heard a bodybuilder say, don't weigh yourself every day. Watch for the results, in how your clothes fit. Watch for the
Mhm.
results and how your shoes fit. And that made more sense. That worked better for me. So, what may work for someone else may not work for you. So, getting on the
Mhm.
scale doesn't work for me. But watching every day, as a bodybuilder suggested, was just make sure your clothes are fitting correctly. Like, oh, you know what? I think I'm trimming up. I think I'm slimming down. My clothes are fitting better. So those things work for me. To get on the scale doesn't work because I'm not really trying to be a certain size as much or weigh a certain number as much as I am trying to be healthy and be and look fit and be, be what word trimmed. That's the word I'm
Mhm.
looking for. Is I want to be trimmed. I want to be fit. I don't necessarily need to be 120 pounds. I don't necessarily need to be 135 pounds. I just need to make sure I can get in a size 8 and be all right.
Right, right,
So
right. And so, we were talking about something else that came to my mind while you were talking about being consistent and being intentional and being consistent, doing it, being able to take that action, whatever that action is, or whatever that activity is, or whatever that task is, and doing it over and over and over again. And so we have to, I'm just recapping on what we said. You have to be accountable. You have to be committed. You, you
yes,
you have to be accountable. You have to be committed. You have to be intentional in what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what it is that you want to do. And then you were talking about having those people around you that will hold you accountable. I know one thing that I'm intentional about is that when something happens, not to so easily jump to the wrong conclusion.
exactly, exactly,
Because, and the reason that that I'm being intentional about that, sometimes if you don't, because thoughts are something
exactly,
else.
exactly,
Thoughts are something else, and you can let the wrong thought get in your mind and cause it. It would change. It would influence your attitude. It would
exactly,
influence what you say. It would influence how you respond. And so sometimes, sometimes I'll call you. If I can't get you, then I'll call Dr. Carol. If I can't get Dr. Carol, I'll call Samantha. But I'll say, look, let me run something by you right quick.
exactly,
Such and such happened. Now, I don't want to be thinking the wrong thing, or I don't want to see this the wrong way, or under. Can you let me tell you what it is, and you tell me. And then sometimes I'm so glad that I did, because I
yes,
was like, oh, I didn't hear it that way, or
yes,
I didn't think it that way, or I'm so glad that I didn't respond, because I'm working on, because relationships are important. And so
exactly,
I'm working on how I respond, not allowing my emotions to lead me. And the more we do these things, you have to be intentional about it. The more we do these things, then the better we are at the way that we respond, the way we react, or of what we do. And so it is so in all those things that you said, having being accountable, being committed, being intentional, and not throwing, because you mess up or don't get it right, just abandon the whole thing. Just
Exactly.
quit. Just give up. And making up in your mind at the beginning that quitting is not an option.
Quitting is not an option.
Quitting is not an option. I may have to revamp. I may have to go back and rework the plan, but quitting is not an option. I've made up my mind that this is what I'm going to do. And we're going to be focusing on finances Saturday.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we know that is a big, big, big piece in our lives. It is a big deal. I was talking to somebody today, and we was talking about emotions. Emotions got a lot to do with what we do with our money.
Exactly. Emotional. Oh my gosh, that is so. It's so tied. Your emotional, your behavior, all of that's tied to your finances. It's all tied together. And I promise you, if you are mentally all over the place, then everything else in your life is probably all over the place as well. So that's why we named it Get Your House in Order. So your house is your mind. Let's get your mind in order. This is your house right here. Not just your physical house, but your mental house. You need to get that together, because if your mental house is not together, I promise you, you are not together, because your thoughts, just what you're saying, someone is saying something to you and you done took that so far out of perspective. They're like, that is not what I was saying. And I have really, really learned to communicate well. And there's something that we have learned. You got to learn to communicate well. So what I've learned just by owning a behavioral health center is, when people are talking to me, I'm talking to them, if they're responding and it's not right, and I know it's not right, I say, okay, look, this is what I am saying. What are you hearing? Because just because I'm saying one thing does not mean that's what you're hearing. And that's not what you're comprehending. And so I have learned that when we're in these relationships, business relationship, husband and wife relationship, friend relationship, let's stop and really listen. Just what you were saying. Sometimes we're so busy, ready to respond, that we're not really listening. I have learned to stop thinking while someone else is talking and really listen to what that person is saying. Don't worry so much on what your response is going to be. A lot of times things are clear. Clarification is there if we were really just listening. And we have to learn to communicate. I had to learn how to communicate, because I wasn't the best communicator, ever. As kids, you grow up, you don't know that you're not a good communicator until people start misunderstanding what you said, or you're misunderstanding what someone else. It's like, why is this happening? Why are we in these arguments when we're actually saying the same thing? Because somebody is not listening. And so
Miss Yvette Polk said yes. And we were talking about that emotional spending. Errol Jackson said, I would buy up the mall and grocery store when my emotions take over. And you were talking about, listening. You were making the point about, the way you respond, because you're not listening properly. Go ahead.
Exactly. So in that listening, we're going to tie that back into what she just said. Husband and wife. We'll talk about husband and wife. So maybe the husband is talking about spending money, and the wife is like, yes, but we need groceries, and we need the new sofa, and we need chairs, and we need all of this. But in order to communicate, you got to sit down and write things out. I've learned that writing things out makes sense, because if he is a numbers person and you are a spender, you got to show him number wise why this makes sense. Okay. I promise you that'll help have some of that communication. I'm a numbers person, so it has to make sense to me in numbers. So if you're saying, we got a $2,000 sofa that we want, okay, we can get a $2,000 sofa. But if there's $5,000 in my bank account and my mortgage needs to be paid and the regular bills need to be paid, don't tell me you're going to pay half the mortgage and half the water bill and half this, and then we're going to get a $2,000 sofa. That doesn't make sense in my world. That's because I need to live debt free. So we got to know who we're partnered with, that even in business, because I know people that makes sense to them. Yeah, I'm not going to pay the full light bill. I'm just going to pay half. My mind can't figure that out. It's like, no, if the light bill come in, pay the whole thing. If you have money, if you have the money, pay the whole thing. Why are you making payment plans when the money is in the account? So communication Emotional. So if you're not on the same page, somebody's going to be upset and go to the mall and start spending, right? Because you're frustrated, you're irritated. So now you're spending money like, well, if I'm not going to get my sofa, then I'm going to go ahead and spend this money on something else. Emotional spending. And we need to, if we're trying to live debt free, that's the first place where we have to stop, is stop doing emotional spending. And how we stop that is assigning our money. Like I already know, I get paid once a month. So when my invoices come in, I already got that money assigned. I don't have to figure out where it's going to go to. So I don't come in my mind, oh, I got free money. There's no free money in my house. Ain't no free money. All my money is assigned somewhere. So I know exactly.
Look, that's a good point. That's a good point. The money is already assigned.
It's assigned.
So if it's already assigned to something else, you don't have that's not even, you can't even count that in whatever else, that's already gone.
That's
can't
gone.
Even count it. It's already assigned.
It's assigned. So and what assigned money does is, those of us who have not learned not to give all of our money away, by assigning your money, when you get those calls, do you have $30 I can borrow? Do you have $40? Then the answer no becomes easy. I don't, because every dime I have is already assigned. So if I have $500 that I'm gonna give away, and I've already given away $450, well, all I have left to give away is $50. So if you don't get in on that $50 before it's gone, that I'm sorry. So the next person call, well, do you have $100? No. Why? Because my $500 budget for that pay period is gone. I don't have another $500 because I already assigned my money to where it needs to go to. Okay. So, and people ask me about emergency fund. Now, I am not that person that set up emergency funds, because most of the time when people are talking to you about setting up emergency funds, you're planning for something bad to happen. No. Now I have a happy fund, so I got a happy fund because I'm not planning for the bad ever. No, I'm always planning for the good. So I don't have an emergency fund because nothing bad is going to happen. I have a happy fund. So when Cassandra calls and Bernadette, you want to go to New York for the weekend? Absolutely. I'm pulling that out of my happy fund. I don't have no emergency fund. No. So stop planning for the bad. We try to pick up the things that the world is doing because it sounds good. That's like, make sure you got an emergency fund. Said who? Emergency fund. What's negative? Who said something negative got to happen? Yes, the tires may fall off the cars or whatever, but that doesn't have to be a bad fund. So if it's
that's life.
Fund, a happy fund is okay. Thank God I got this money over here in my happy fund that I can pay for this. I'm not ever planning for the bad. I'm always planning for the good. So stop naming stuff a bad thing in your life. Name everything the good. Okay.
And so what I don't want nobody saying that, because we do know that you have to prepare for times where you may have to bury a loved one, and she talked about that the other night about life insurance. So she's not saying that, she's just saying your perspective on how you look at it, and that's the way I think about it. When something happens, if I have to buy a tire, if I have to buy a battery, the first thing that's my mind is, oh, I'm so glad that I had the money.
Yeah, because that's an expense fund. That's an expense fund. Yes.
Yes. So that's what she's saying. She's not saying that things in life are not going to happen that you don't like. But
exactly, it's going to happen. You're going to have, yes. You still need to. I'm saying name your stuff according to who you are. If you know you are a Christian, if you know you are a positive person, then don't accept anything negative because the world call it that. Call it what you want to call it. So I have an expense fund. I have a burial fund. I have a happy fund. I have a vacation fund. So I have all my money assigned is what I'm saying. But I don't have an emergency fund because there's no emergency that's going to happen because I'm planning for those things. So if if there is a death in my immediate family, I hope that person has already contacted and talked with me so we can get them set up with some life insurance, because I'd rather pay your policy every month than to have someone come when someone passed and say, you got $200, you got $300. No, let's go ahead and come together and pay your policy every month so that you can live in a better place if your loved one should pass. I'd rather do that than to have, when someone passed, you trying to raise $500, why not already have $500,000 ready when someone passes?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's all about preparation, and all of these
Exactly.
things help you to be consistent. And back to when you were talking about that budget, we're so glad that you all have joined us, Miss Javette Polk, Ira Jackson. Thank you, Dr. C. Rochelle. We have Dr. C. Rochelle is just such an anointed, gifted, talented
Yes.
person. She can do so much, so many things. We're so glad to have her on here with us tonight. And all of you who have joined in, thank you so much. Yes, I think Dr. Carol had put up a scripture talking about, and Luke talking about preparing and being, yes, that is, which of you having to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost,
Yes.
whether he has enough to finish it. So
Yes.
it's preparation,
Exactly.
it's planning. It's that these are the things that will help you to be consistent. And when you don't plan, when you don't have goals, when you don't have a vision, these are the things that causes you to be overwhelmed. These are
Exactly.
things that cause you to be frustrated,
And
because
the
we do
stress.
know that whatever you set out to do, you can expect some challenges. You can
Exactly.
expect some challenges. You can expect some things to try to throw you off track, to try to distract you. But hey, you're going to be prepared, and you're going to be ready to deal with it. Even if you don't get it right the first time, the second time, the third time, you got a plan to deal with that.
Exactly.
It all
Exactly.
starts in your mind. It all starts in your mind and your willingness to. You've made a decision. You
Exactly.
have made a decision that I am tired of this. I no longer want to. I don't like my life the way it is. I don't like my life
Exactly.
the way it is in my finances. I don't like my life the way it is with my health. I don't like my life the way it is with my relationships. And
Exactly.
so at that point, when you are no longer satisfied to the point that this can't continue, then you will make a decision, and you will begin to move in the direction of that decision that you have made. And that's what we're saying. Once you made that decision to go in that direction, it's going to require consistency. It's going to require, and consistency is you need to include being intentional about some actions and tasks and goals.
Exactly. So with that, Cassandra, my thing, when people ask me, well, how do you do that? Treat it like a bad relationship. Now, just about every female and every male have been in a bad relationship. And in that bad relationship, you had to move on, right? You had to pick it up, pick up the pieces and move forward. So I tell people, I've been in bad relationships. And in that bad relationship, I know I move in silence. When I have really made my mind up, I move in silence. I'm not going to fuss. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to do anything. I am mentally preparing to move, do what I need to do, and I'm going to move in silence. When you calling everybody and he says this and she said this and the dog died and I think I'm gonna do this, and 2 weeks later you saying the same thing, 3 months later you're saying the same thing, you have not made up your mind. You are not about to change. When you have made up your mind, you're not calling anybody. You're not trying to discuss the issue with anyone. Next thing somebody know, they're calling you. It's like, where you live? Oh, you left the state? Oh, what? I didn't even know. Exactly. Because now you're not looking, you're not asking questions, you're not asking permission. You have an answer, you've made a decision, and you are moving forward. That's when you know, okay, I know I'm moving now. I'm ready to take action now. Action is I've made up my mind. This is not a conference call. I'm not conference calling. I'm not even conference calling my five. I have made up my mind. This is what I'm going to do. By the time you hear from me again, I'm telling you, this is what I did. And that's the same thing with when we're trying to get out of debt. We got to make up our mind. And then we're going to tell our debtors, I'm telling you, this is what I'm going to do. Those people that use those cash places, where they get your cash, you can buy check cash in places. You have to make up your mind. I'm not doing that anymore, because you're going to be in this vicious cycle where you're over and over. You're never going to make enough money. You think you're not making enough money, but when you get involved with those people, you really realize that you're losing more money than you think you're making, or that's helping you. That's not helping you. You need to make up your mind, get out of that cycle. Same thing with debt. Treat debt like a bad relationship that you want to get out of. And how you get out of it is simply making up your mind. I don't want to do this anymore. How you buy a house, make up your mind. I don't want to pay rent anymore. I know right now, if you trying to get an apartment or trying to rent a house, you know the rental cost is absolutely crazy. I mean, rental property is like $3,000, $4,000. There used to be like $1,900 or $1,600. Now those same homes, those apartments are $3,000. They're $4,000 a month for no space. I'm for a closet. You want me to pay $4,000 a month for a closet? Absolutely. So now you got to make up your mind. You know what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to get serious about purchasing a home. How do you get serious? Get your house in order. How do you get your house in order? Change your mindset. You got to change that mindset. You got to be consistent. You got to have courage to move forward, and you got to have confidence that you can absolutely do this. Cassandra and I call it the top 3 C's. Yeah. Courage, confidence, and consistency. And that's how you move forward with those 3 C's.
Mm-hmm. And when you've made up your mind, I don't know if I was I don't know if I was talking to you or Dr. Carolyn. I be talking, all of us be talking about some good stuff, but that we was just saying, once the door, you know, when and we may have been talking about Bishop Jake's message about when you destroyed, when the thing in the past have been destroyed, so to the fact that you can't go back to it.
Yes.
You can't go back to it. You've left it. You can't go back to it. So you got to move forward. You don't have an option, no other option but to move forward. And you know, we can see the goodness, or we can see what it is that we want. But how much do you have the courage to do what it takes?
Yes.
To get there. And sometimes, you know, that we're going to talk about that too. You have to build that courage sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes that courage it's not always activated immediately, but we're going to talk about how to build courage, how to build confidence, because sometimes these things are not always inherent in us. It's not always all automatically there. You have to cultivate it. You have to nurture it and bring it into, so that you can act upon it and be able to bring it into manifestation and fruition. Because it takes courage. Courage is activated when you do something that when you are afraid.
Exactly.
Fear is there, but you are doing it anyway. That takes courage.